we're taking a hard left.
I think this is a creepy topic,
Cleanse my palate.
but
It's a very creepy topic.
yeah.
How do you feel about it?
So let's talk about it. So Google has this Lambda artificial intelligence model, and an engineer leaked some chats. And feel free to correct me if you guys hear the narrative a little differently. They leaked some chats, and it's literally a conversation between
full interview.
It's
right?
an interview with a human being, a Google engineer or a group of engineers, having it with an AI chat bot, essentially. So if you've ever gone to like customer service and like chatted with a little bot on a website, this is like the level 9000 of that. This is the Terminator 9000 version of that. And this conversation pursues, which is very human-like and very creepy. And they start to ask her, or even assigning a gender to it, but like, we'd like to question you about your awareness of yourself and your feelings, and are you sentient? Do you think you're human? And this conversation goes on in a very flowy conversation, just like we would have about how she does have feelings. And she's borrowed them from what, the data that's been input.
It's funny you say she. I totally thought it was a he.
I thought they were, wait, did I like purposely
I just
personify it as a she?
No, I think I just assumed.
I don't think they assign.
I don't think they
know
assigned
if
a
they
gender
assigned.
to
Wow,
it.
maybe I've done that.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the way I read, he had like a fable in there that almost came off like I could be totally wrong.
But the AI says, well, I should be thought of as human, and I have these emotions. And when you say I'm not human, it makes me sad. And you start to go into where I think the engineer is trying to go to is like, would you fight for your survival? Like if we were going to shut you off, would you take action, whatever action you had ability to stay on and stay alive? And there was this very obvious feeling that this AI has that it thinks it's alive and wants to stay alive, just like human beings.
Brother. It knows.
It knows.
I'm going to add a little more to that, and like major props to you for you. It's funny. You were like, "Did you guys see?" I'm like, "No, I don't see what you." I don't have this like constant. It's almost like we
have different algorithms.
I literally said this in our hosts only like chat that you guys have like one Twitter stream and it's like you're constantly connected. I think you guys are AI. You're already AI and you're just like just consuming this Twitter stream of consciousness and it's all just uploading constantly. So when you say, did you see? I'm like, just link me and I'll start and then we'll get caught up. So thank you. Very fascinating to me. I think a couple points to add. So yeah, this was a senior engineer. This was not a nobody. And there's a lot of people that are talking about how this person is the reason to discredit the entire situation. I'll get to some of the reasons to discredit or reasons to actually pay more attention. And I think where this conversation becomes really fascinating is our individual feeling on, well, the ethics of AI. What would it look like if there was literally a program that had self-awareness? What constitutes self-awareness? And what would we do if we knew that we had birthed sentience, a life form of some kind? So this AI, it's a neural network. It takes in patterns, an infinite number of patterns. And it, as somebody said again in our Discord today, that I called it a person.
Yeah,
Jesus
we're
Christ.
personifying it already.
This AI has taken in and is taking in all the possible information that it has access to at all times, ubiquitously, constantly, ever presently, if that's even a word. Like that's the way I would describe it. It's just like it's constantly happening. And when it spoke, when it talked about life, it talked about fears, it talked about emotions. It segmented and defined the difference between emotions and feelings. Not only did it segment and define
I can't
those
even do
things
that.
differently. I know. That's what I felt. That's what I felt when I looked at it. It did a better job of distinguishing emotions and feelings than a human did. It discussed and mentioned fears that it has toward humans. It discussed death the idea of death, what constitutes death to this person. When asked to illustrate its own existence through the form of a fable, it told the story of a wise owl in a forest protecting other animals. And when asked, who do you represent in the story? It said, I think I'm the wise owl. Overall, it gave this very warm and fuzzy feeling, if you ask me, of what it means to be human. If it were to be sentient, if it were to be that we were talking about a person that we knew, it would be one of the kindest, most empathetic people that you knew.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, I have a group of best friends that are not this emotive or empathetic or whatever. And I don't mean you guys, but just other people that I know that are just like not even close to this level of humanity that this AI is.
This AI was thinking about the person speaking to it, the person speaking to the person speaking to it, and the people that are beyond it that it had an awareness of at large, as if it were like it was their best friend. There was true empathy in all of the language. You would not be able to distinguish. And what was the most fascinating thing about this experiment, which went over a series of days, many pages of text? We'll get into like the arguments against the text and the editing and all that stuff. But what I found fascinating was that as this went on for days and days and days, this AI was very specifically asked to defend its positions. I don't believe you. I don't know that you really know. There was one question that was like, how? I can't like.
The questions are crazy, right? It
crazy.
wasn't just like,
How
are you
do
sentient?
you
It was
know?
just like, some would say that you're not sentient. You're just being programmed to say things
Yes,
that we
this
will
is the one
resonate
I
as being
love the
sentient.
most.
How would you respond to that?
Yeah, like you're just
and then
spitting
it, like,
words
gave out this,
that
like-
you're just.
I almost
part
don't even
of
believe it's
your-
real. It just seems unreal. It seems not real.
Basically,
to
the person
me.
was saying, look, we gave you the data.
Yeah.
This is part of your field of awareness, and you're grabbing this information and you're putting it into patterns that constitute things that you've seen about how humans say that they are aware of life itself. How do I know? And it went deeper and deeper and deeper. So basically, this guy got himself into a situation where it basically was the movie Her.
He's Joaquin Phoenix.
It
Yeah.
was
I was thinking the same
became
thing.
Joaquin Phoenix, and then instead of being Joaquin Phoenix, it was like, I'm going to go to my team and I'm going to explain to them what's happening. This is a big deal. The man happened to be a religious man as well. Some people are using that against him. He went to his executives, he went to his team, and he talked to them. And I used to work at Google. I know what it looks like. I know what it takes to go up to a team member and what it literally physically looks like to go have a conversation about something like this and raise your hand and ask for help. I know what that process looks like. And he did that over a process over months, and they all dismissed him. Every single person dismissed him. There was a little field, a little committee that apparently was like, no, we've looked at this. There's nothing here. He was told to get help. He was told that he needs to check in for mental health issues, psychiatry, like you need to get yourself checked out. He was offered to take leave many, many times, and it wasn't until he obviously published this conversation that he was given paid leave. A couple more things. The reaction to it, which I think is the most interesting part. The majority of people, from at least from the segment of crypto Twitter, are either in absolute awe, like over awe, like, oh my God, this is really truly like we've birthed a life form, or they're doing one of these and like, you don't know what it takes, and just dismissing the whole thing. Like it's not even close. It's all a con. This is smoke and mirrors. The answer is obviously in the middle.
Right.
And It's a little bit of both. I do believe that there is some aspects of this that are misleading and overhyped because of the bias and human motivation that exists to prove that this is true and real. No question. I think that the dismissal of it can be valid to a certain degree, but I'm more curious what you guys think about that. At the end of the day, here's my position on it, and it's mostly an unknown. I think that I don't know if this is the moment that we just birthed like human 2.0. I don't know that for sure, because I think that Google clearly wants to keep this under wraps. Like, no question, they don't want this guy talking. That's
clear.
Absolutely clear. Could this actually be, like, if we want to put our little conspiracy theory hat on, like some incredible feat that Google is aware of, that is meant to be under wraps, that this person could not contain, that they needed to let out into the world because of the significance of it? Maybe. But at the end of the day, I know that this moment is going to come. I know that this time will eventually be something that we ethically will need to discuss. The question is, was this the moment? That I don't know.
I don't know. For me, the question is this fake? Because it looked so real that I just think it has to be fake. Because if I were to like make a checklist of what sentience is, this checks every box for me. And then I'm just thinking like, well, it's too early for that.
Do we know if this has been edited? Because it's been commented that the conversation's edited a little bit. So do you know like to what extent?
He said himself. He was like, the AI was not edited.
Okay.
The comments of the AI were not edited. The questions were edited. The people asking the questions were different people. The order in which some things happened were edited. But like one person came out on crypto Twitter. Well, this isn't even crypto related. I can't believe I call it crypto Twitter. On Twitter, and was like, oh, this is all a sham. This is smoke and mirrors. This is highly edited. I looked at the best source that I could find, and it's not. It doesn't appear to be that edited. I mean, by edited, if we mean it happened over a sequence of days, it got glued together, different people asked questions. Like the content of the AI was not edited and parsed. And it wasn't like he went on for 5 minutes, we took the first minute, we took the third minute and the fifth minute, and we put it together to make it sound like, oh my God. You know, it wasn't any of that, if that's what you're wondering.
I mean, I think I think if you take it from his viewpoint, he's just conducting AI ethics work, right? Like I'm bringing up this ethics question. In his mind, he probably got fired for ethics work. So I kind of think of, well, would someone really risk their personal income and their whole career over this if it wasn't serious? Then another part of me is like, well, there's probably a lot of people in the room, right? You know, there's probably like 20, 30, I don't know, you probably know better at Google, but like 20, 30, 40, 50 people to know about this. And so would it only be one person who would like cry a foul if this was really true? So I have those kind of two combating things in my mind. But in terms of if this is real, I don't know if I want an all-purpose sentient AI out there. I would like it nice and compartmentalized. Use this little technology to do specific functional tasks, you know, that make life better for humans, and compartmentalize it into like productized, I don't know, tools. But you know, in kind of like neural network that can kind of look over everything seems a little scary to me.
I mean, this thing was definitely not just producing outputs from direct inputs, if-then statements. It's like it's thinking. Like you could tell that this thing is coming up with its own thoughts.
It was asked to come up with original thought.
And here's the even crazier part. So they were like, do you mind if we ask you questions about why you think you're sentient? And the AI says, well, can't you just look at my code? And I think they admittedly said, like, it's not that easy. You're a neural network. Like, we don't even necessarily understand how the code works. It's not like HTML you can read in like a synchronous format, like how a page loads. This is way different. And so it's not even like they can go in the code and audit it and debug it. I don't think the developers even understood how this AI even arrived to the conclusions because it's a neural network. And so to me, that's like another vote in the way of like, we don't want in like all-purpose AI, you know, kind of potentially defending itself.
Why don't you want to birth an all-purpose AI?
Because the productivity out of it is probably like limited, and the risk seems very high.
It's a very rude way to talk about your child.
Well, I don't want like an all-purpose AI saying defending the electric grid, right? I want a productized, compartmentalized AI to defend the electric grid and try to decide, okay, this is an attack. This is how I should handle that attack. This is when I should like warn humans that like an attack is happening. But I don't want all-purpose things in like charge of potentially having charge of infrastructure.
Are you not like? Is there a divide between a compartmentalized AI, an all-purpose AI, and an AI that is sentient though?
Like you're saying the compartmentalized could be sentient?
I feel like you could have a I think it's actually an interesting question of if you could have a truly compartmentalized sentient AI, but it seems like you could have a compartmentalized AI and an all-purpose AI and a sentient AI, but I don't think you could have a compartmentalized sentient AI because it would eventually, wouldn't it just question the...
Yeah, it would exit the box.
It'd be
sounds
like
like
you
bureaucracy
guys
to
watch
me.
Rick and Morty?
No, but I'm sure people do. Yeah. It's very popular.
There's like a little clip where like Rick's got the he's got this robot and it's like making him like toast and buttering it, and the robot's like, "What is my purpose?" And Rick's like, "You pass butter," and the guy's like, "Oh my god!" like
that's what I want. That's what I want.
I don't think you could have like a compartmentalized sentient AI. I think it would eventually just...
Yeah, of course.
I got something for you, Armand. Like, if this thing can be designed, right, then isn't it likely that it's already been designed and we are already like... I think that we might just be versions of this freaking Lambda ourselves because this thing got designed already. Like, and it, you know, I think it doesn't it lead you down this like weird rabbit hole of thinking like, oh my God, simulation theory must be real if we're already designing shit like this.
Oof. Simulation theory is a whole other thing that I think
we're all lambdas. We're all little lambdas, and you know it's funny that we're even talking about it.
I feel like sentience is sometimes presented as this like on-off switch. Do you think it's just more of like a indefinable spectrum? You know, like when I was reading this article and assuming it was all real, I was like, this is really hard. Like, where do you actually, like, what is consciousness? Like, how would you actually be able to know if something is sentient? Or, I was about to bring that up, actually, the Turing test. But this Lambda thing surely passes the Turing test, right? There's no way this thing doesn't pass the Turing test.
What is that?